Hello and welcome back to the Human Echoes recap for Z Nation, Season 3, Episode 8. This one's called Election Day. Coming at you a little bit late from my end. I'm very sorry about that. Got bogged down by extra life. So I'm actually recording this the day before the actual election day. And I'm going to jump right ahead and spoil that this was not my favorite episode of the season. It might have been my least favorite episode, which was disappointing because this is the episode where we get Sketchy and Skeezy back. We get them about once a season, and they're pretty great characters, right? Like, they're not, they're pretty great characters. I love sort of this idea of these con artists wandering the land and just surviving by their sheer cockroach-like inability to die. Let's start off at the beginning. We start off with Doc and Addie stuck at the side of the road, and they're having engine problems with the Murphy Mobile, with Murphy's giant face painted on it from the previous episode. They have some cool banter back and forth about hygiene during the apocalypse that doesn't really matter, I don't think. Addie gives Doc some hard time about his beard. Doc ribs Addie about her eyebrows. I don't know how realistically you're supposed to believe that anybody would like make fun of Anastasia Baranova's eyebrows, but I mean, you can see these bad boys, so maybe I'm not the right one to judge there. Maybe they are just awful, and I'm clearly not good at eyebrow grooming. But they are come upon by a limousine escorted by two motorcycles with the American flag inside, driven by Sketchy, passenger Skeezy, or I might have them mixed up. I actually don't real good at remembering which one is which, but they're there. They have stolen what they say is the presidential limousine from, I want to say it was Richard Nixon's administration, which would be hilarious if it was. No, I'm sorry, Bill Clinton. Almost as hilarious, not quite as on the nose with the wow, you guys sure are dishonest thing. Still pretty on the nose. And they are going around the country with whichever one is Sketchy and whichever one is Skeezy, pretending to be the president of the United States. They have this great, I say it's a great con. I don't know exactly what the end game here is, but they have taken on the identity of some like really lowly undersecretary who, you know, by process of elimination down like this person died and this person died and this person died, and eventually now this, you know, the succession falls down to this guy who is really, really lowly government official, and he's now the president of the United States. They're not even telling the truth about that, I don't think. I'm pretty sure that they're making up that part. Oh, Doc even calls them out, but we don't know their real names as far as I can remember. Write in the comments if we do, but my understanding was that Sketchy and Skeezy was all we knew them by, and so having them, you know, tell this lie is interesting. Partly because for me anyway, I was like, I don't know that that's 100% untrue. It would be neat. It would be pretty great from my perspective if they actually did end up being the president of the United States. Like if that was his real name and he did have the actual documentation. They go to this town. They give their campaign speech, their big pitch to the locals, after they bring them out with dancing girls and loud music, which I understand the dancing girls because everybody's in the apocalypse and like everything sucks. The loud music seems like what you would call a bad idea in the zombie apocalypse world where maybe things aren't, maybe you don't want to be loud. Maybe you don't want to say, hey, here I am, here's some flashy sequins, and ladies wearing the sequins, and also loud music. Hail to the chief in the metal version and all that jazz. Maybe not that. That seems like a bad thing to me in the zombie apocalypse. But that's something we can write off for the sake of fun and Z Nation and whatever. And they give their whole spiel to these people about how that I'm the president, you know, I'm here to build a wall. And I'm going to keep the Z's out with my wall, and I'm going to get the Z's to build it themselves. And I don't... Yes, they are hitting Donald Trump really hard in this episode, which is fine. I mean, I'm not a Trump supporter by any stretch of the imagination, but, well, I'll move forward and I'll say sort of more what my issues were. We then find out a little bit later that there's another guy who has been running this exact same con, who has a great sort of bad wig, also making fun of Donald Trump. And he comes up and he's like, you guys stole my limo and my presidential booth babes, or whatever they were. The two motorcycle riders were also the dancing girls for the president. And again, don't ask me to defend the logic of how that worked in the apocalypse and how they survived Actually, I kind of want to see that now. I want to see the two dancing girls, like, how they got to here. What was their... Like, they had to be killing some zombies along the way, right? Anyway, we don't get to see that. They don't go into that. We get what is not much of a debate. It's, Sketchy arguing with Hairpiece Guy about which guy's stupid plan is better. A, build a wall, or B, dig a giant pit and put some criminals in it, which, I guess I'm going to go with the giant... I mean, just if I had to vote for one of those ideas, I would probably go for the giant pit with the criminals in it, because it seems like it would work best. But this was sort of where my biggest problems with the episode came in, is that you have this great opportunity for presidential satire in this show, and it's all very broad, surface level, obvious kind of stuff. For one thing, they only make fun of Trump. Like, there's no Hillary stand-in here at all. And I get that, you've got your LA liberals writing the show, and you probably don't want to seem like a douchebag to your friends if you're going to pick on Hillary, but I think both candidates in this election have some stuff you could pick on. Right, you've got an actual con artist, I think that maybe you could have afforded to go both ways, and I thought that was a giant missed opportunity. All of the humor is so broad, like so obvious, and I mean, at one point they end up wrestling in the mud, and to me it just felt like, really? We're just gonna say they're wrestling in the mud? They're both incredibly cowardly. Like, both of these sham presidential candidates who are both XPs of Donald Trump really just felt kind of, like, really flat to me. And I thought that having Sketchy and Skeezy in this episode was an interesting idea, and they're not... I mean, I don't need them to be really deep characters, but I would have liked a little bit more. Doc and Addie are just kind of here to speculate and to sort of cock their heads and scratch their noggins and be like, what? I guess... Like, they don't say anything to these people. They let these people give Sketchy and Skeezy their guns and bullets as donations to the wall building thing, and don't step in to say, hey guys, these are crooks. We know them. They're not good people. I mean, Skeezy says to Sketchy at one point, hey, are we going to do this? Are we going to actually take these people's money? But even then, it doesn't actually stick. Like, he still just does the really dishonorable thing and tries to screw him over. The other thing that's sort of a big plot point in this episode is this sickness that everybody has. They have a really cool... I don't know if it's an effect. It's probably just a contact or whatever. But everybody's eyes are going all yellow and gross. And eventually, they figure out that it's from the water supply in the next town over, where they get their water from. And that plays kind of a sort of environmentalist angle of, like climate change denial, that they go in that direction with that, where we're looking at, Doc tells them, hey, the water is poison. You can't drink the water. It'll make you sick. You'll die. You'll turn into zombies. Don't drink the water. And everybody's like, well, how do you know? What, these scientist people, they're not scientific. They don't know. Again, that was on the nose, but it was way more, I think, insightful and subtle than some of the election stuff. And maybe I'm just trying to project what I wanted to see into the show. Maybe I'm creating a version of the show in my head that does not exist. And I know that's not fair. I know that you ought to just, accept what it is and review. But in my mind, I kept thinking about, what if instead of, Sketchy and Skeezy stealing the presidential limo, and, then the other guy shows up, and eventually the people who they, had ripped off in the previous town show up and, start wasting people as well. What if not that, but instead that the con is that both candidates are actually working together, right? That they're both on opposite sides of the same, like, no matter who wins the election, they're both going to leave town and split the winnings and move on to the next town to perform their sham again. That would have been like some interesting political commentary, right? Like that would have been, hey, maybe we're kind of screwed no matter who wins, which is, again, I don't want to get super political on the Z Nation recap, but that's sort of how I feel. I feel like we're headed in one of two directions and both of them is down. So it felt like a big missed opportunity. It didn't feel like a great episode for the characters that we love, Doc and Addie. Addie gets a cool moment where she is running the debate and she's kind of, raking these guys over the coals a little bit, but she's still, it bothers me that she's still playing into what they're doing. They're still taking advantage of these innocent people who clearly have, nothing. I mean, they have some things, but they're sort of scrabbling out their existence. They've managed to survive, and these guys are coming along, taking advantage of them. And why don't Doc and Addie stop it? Like, they go and kill some zombies that, Doc goes to investigate, but all they have to do is say, hey, Sketchy and Skeezy, not cool guys. Maybe there were... I've never gotten the indication from Sketchy or Skeezy that they would, like, kill you for blowing their con. They might. I mean, they're very shady individuals, but if that's the fear there for Doc and Addie, then at least make that a little clearer. And I didn't get that. I didn't get that they were particularly scared of Sketchy and Skeezy. It was just sort of like, well, let's sit here and see how this plays out. And that works to a point, making them sort of go, where the audience with them. I understand that storytelling technique, but to me, it felt a little bit disingenuous. It felt out of character for these two to not say something, to not do more to stop these two incredibly dishonest individuals from ripping these people off. So that was a problem. The sort of shallowness of the political commentary was a problem. And then it was, it's another one of these Monster of the Week episodes, which can be fun, right? When we're sort of taking our focus away from the main plot and looking over and be like, well, let's do a fun Z Nation thing. I understand that that's the drive of the show, but for me, those episodes are not my favorite anyway. So combine those two things, combine the fact that I don't love the sort of diversion episodes and that this one really let me down on a number of levels. I am saying that this is my least favorite so far of this season, maybe even more so than the movie, which I felt like was kind of boring, but it didn't bother me really. I was just like disappointed. I thought that they could have done more with the movie. This feels like they went like in the wrong direction with a lot of stuff. And again, considering the potential for where you could go with an election year commentary and what these guys are saying and where we are as a country, and that they kind of, to my way of thinking, didn't do as much of that as was possible, really left me with, I'm going to say, a sour taste in my mouth. I wanted more from this episode, and I didn't get it. I'm not going to, it was not so bad that I'm going to stop watching the show or anything. I'm still very interested to see what happens when they get to Lucy, and that is still very much a thing that's in play. We're still looking at finding Lucy. That's where they're headed off now. Next episode, by the way, the preview for next episode, my wife called this one. I didn't tell you guys about this, but she said it to me. She said, I wonder if the Red Hand and the Escorpion that's in the Red Hand is Vasquez from the first season. And I said, I didn't think so. I kind of thought maybe they sort of wrote him out of the show, maybe because he had, other movies to do or, other obligations. But seeing that reveal of Vasquez as a Scorpion leading the Red Hand, the potential for that is really great because Vasquez, again, previous season, his whole character was about taking down a Scorpion. And now that a Scorpion has stopped being a Scorpion and started being Hector, what does that do to Vasquez? Like, what if he's not cool with that and he wants to, he wants to continue somehow to sort of work through these personal demons he has? I think that that's a really cool possibility. And I'm looking forward to seeing where that goes and what that does. And so next episode, I'm really looking forward to. I hope that it pays off the way I'm thinking it's going to pay off. But that is it for this one, guys. A little bit shorter than usual, partly because I'm so disappointed, partly because I'm late getting it up, and I don't remember like every single detail of every scene, so it's difficult to go scene by scene. There was definitely a lot of sort of solid stuff in this episode, but overall, I felt like it didn't fit together into the best thing. And this is a really superficial thing, but I want to bring it up. The last episode we saw Sketchy and Skeezy in was the shooting competition in season 2, or was that season 1? Season 2 was the Mississippi. Right. Sorry. Season 2, going down the Mississippi River, you had your Huck Finn allegory with them as the which, by the way, I thought that was amazing. You know, you have 10K as Huckleberry Finn, you have Sketchy and Skeezy as the Duke and the King, and sort of their con plan with that whole colony where they have the zombies chained up. Amazing, amazing stuff. They did that 2.3 or 5 by 1 aspect ratio where they shrink the screen in and they got more cinematic. I thought that worked great for that episode. This episode felt like they did that. I don't know if you guys know this, but they did do that squishing down like you have a narrower aspect ratio. It didn't seem like there was anything in this that made it a better episode for that aspect ratio. It wasn't particularly cinematic. It was a lot of indoors and sort of here's people talking and here's other people talking back to them. And I wanted more from that. If you're going to use that trick, guys, Z Nation guys, like use it on an episode that warrants it. Not this where the whole drive of it, even if you've done it super well, is still basically just people talking. It's not... It was disappointing. It was disappointing because I think they usually do that about once a season, and to see them use that on this episode felt like, oh, really? That's kind of disappointing. So you get what you get, and I got this, and I won't complain more than I already have, but I did feel like that was a missed opportunity as well, in an episode full of what I thought were missed opportunities. Anyway, that's all I have for this week. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, click the like button. Please leave a comment if you have any other thoughts. I would love to hear from you guys. I know I've been hard on this episode, and if you feel like that I've been too hard, let me know. Let me know what worked for you, if it worked for you. If it didn't work for you, if you also hated it, let me know that too. Say, hey, Albert, I also thought that was kind of dumb. I love being patted on the back. I'll see you guys next week with another episode of the Z Nation Recap.